Going beyond the headlines. Asking the questions you want answered. Exploring government policies and how they impact you. We are delving deeper.
Good evening and welcome to Delving Deeper. I'm your host, Sunolala. Joining us this evening is the Acting Director of the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, Mr. Shakiru Baig. Good evening, Mr. Baig, and welcome to the show.
Hi Sunil, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here and thank you for having me.
So, Mr. Baig, we recently had the declaration of the rainy season, but first I want to delve into exactly what is the role and function of the Trinidad and Tobago Met Office.
Thank you very much, Sunil. So the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service is classified as a national meteorological and hydrological service, and in Trinidad and Tobago it's a division of the Ministry of Public Utilities. The Meteorological Service is classified by the Government of Trinidad and Tobago as being an essential service based on the nature of services that we provide. So we provide a variety of services across many sectors. We provide weather forecasts and warnings for the general public. We provide a suite of services to ensure international air navigation safety. We provide services for the other essential services of our country, like the water sector, the electricity sector. We provide sector-specific services to the oil and gas sector, to the agricultural sector, and to many other sectors across Trinidad and Tobago. So we actually have key roles and functions. One of the more important functions that the Meteorological Service will provide will be the provision of early warnings for any impending meteorological or hydrological hazards and severe weather services. So we are broad in terms of what we do, but I like to summarize. My key function at the Met Service, and indeed that of what we do, we contribute towards saving lives and property in Trinidad and Tobago.
How long has the Met Service been around, and are you delivering on your mandate as the Met Service?
The Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service has been around for quite a while. It has gone through many iterations over the years, from being in the early days the British Meteorological Service, then evolving into the Meteorological Service of Trinidad and Tobago, and today we are branded as the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service. We have two observing and forecast stations, one at Piarco and of course another at Crown Point, located at the ANR International Airport in Tobago. We're definitely delivering on our mandate. Our mandate is very broad in terms of what we do. We deliver in terms of meteorological observations and forecasting. And very, very importantly, Sunil, a lot of our citizens don't understand the key and critical role that we play in terms of contributing to international air navigation safety. The Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service is responsible for an area known as the Flight Information Region of Piarco, which is over 2 million square kilometers. So we, as the main meteorological watch office of the Caribbean area, we look over this area. We observe the weather, we record the weather, and we forecast any severe weather in this area that will be deemed dangerous for international air navigation safety. We're definitely fulfilling our mandate in terms of providing accurate and timely early warning services for all impending meteorological and hydrological hazards. We're definitely fulfilling our mandate when it comes to observing climate change and climate variability, and offering advice when it comes to mitigating against the harmful effects of climate change. We're definitely fulfilling our mandate again when we provide these early warnings to the national disaster agencies like the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, who will now manage whatever situation arises out of these severe weather episodes.
So from my research, the rainy season has been declared. I think it was declared on May 25th. I understand that from my research, this is the 14th year in a row that it's been declared in May. What are some of the elements that actually go into declaring the rainy season?
Sunil, as you well know, because of where we are and because of the tropical climate that we experience, we simply have two seasons here, right? We have a dry season, which runs from, sometime in January to the month of May, and we have a wet season, which runs from when we declare it to the end of December. And built within the wet season is the hurricane season that has clear demarcations from June the 1st to November the 30th. Of course, May is normally the month climatologically when we would declare the onset of the rainy season. We utilize two scientific criteria in order to make this declaration. One is when we receive some significant and measurable rainfall from the visit of a tropical wave. So whenever a tropical wave would pass over Trinidad and Tobago and produce rainfall, this is a definite signal to us because this is a rainy season feature. And the second is the Intertropical Convergence Zone. And this has become a household name, right? The ITCZ. So whenever we have a visit from the ITCZ and we get significant rainfall, we utilize this scientific criteria as a signal to us that the rainy season has started. And yes, for Trinidad and Tobago, we have declared the start of the rainy season, a couple of weeks ago on the 25th of May. And there are some years when we have a slow and gradual onset of the rainy season, and it can push us to the beginning of June. But in most years, climatologically, the end of the month of May is when we begin to transition from the dry into the wet.
Talking about significant rainfall, I recently saw a media release from the Met Service which said we're expecting moderate to heavy rainfall for the second half of June, and it's around 60 millimeters to 160 millimeters of rainfall. What can you expect in the coming months after that and for June as well?
That's $1 million question, right? I know my good friends at the Water Resources Agency, they've been inquiring about significant rainfall events because, as you're well aware, over the dry season months, we had really below average rainfall, and our water managers have had to put some measures in place to ensure that water is available for everyone during these periods of shortages. The rainy season has started, but we haven't actually witnessed any, significant rainfall event that will make a contribution to the level of the dams and the reservoirs. And yes, you're right. We're expecting over the next couple of weeks some tropical waves and also the Intertropical Convergence Zone to visit us and to become a little bit more established. So our forecast is for at least the last week in the month of June to receive one or two significant rainfall events, and we are hoping that this will contribute in some positive way to the levels of our dams and reservoirs.
We talk about reservoirs, and Wasa has been having a difficult time for the dry season and so on. It's basically depleting. How close is your collaboration with Wasa and the Ministry of Public Utilities?
We have a very close working relationship with our colleagues at the Water and Sewage Authority, and indeed the Water Resources Agency, which we liaise with in terms of whenever there's significant rainfall, we would receive information from them regarding the dams and the rivers. So we also provide customized, packages in terms of what we forecast for areas where the dams and the reservoirs are. So there's always room for a little bit of improvement with our relationship with our colleagues in the Water Resources Agency, but we have a really good collaborative relationship with them.
A couple of years ago, we saw the implementation of the orange-yellow alert system. How has that been working, and has it been, effectively disseminated to the members of the public?
That's a really good question, Sunil. A couple of years ago, maybe like about 5 to 7 years ago, the World Meteorological Organization which is the body from the United Nations that regulates and put laws and best practices and standards in place for the operations of National Meteorological and Hydrological Service, they actually recommended the implementation of a common alerting protocol. Trinidad and Tobago, and this is one of our many successes, Trinidad and Tobago has been one of the early National Meteorological and Hydrological Services that embraced this common alerting system. So we went from the simple advisory to what is known now as a yellow alert. If the situation requires it, we would up the alert to orange. If it becomes dangerous, then we issue a red alert. So this color-coded alerting system has been working very well for us. I know members of the public has indicated to me that there are too many yellow alerts, and we hear this concern, but whenever it's required and whenever it's necessary, we will up these alerts to orange or red based on the requirement for it. So this alerting system is, in accordance and in alignment with the requirements from the World Meteorological Organization, and Trinidad and Tobago has been a leader in this regard. Some of our Caribbean colleagues and even the World Meteorological Organization has recently invited me to do a presentation on a case study from Trinidad and Tobago with respect to our use of this alerting system and its effectiveness, and make recommendations on how it can be improved.
The weather is unpredictable. There's no doubt about it. And forecasters, meteorologists all over the world have been severely criticized when it doesn't pan out exactly. If they say, rain is coming and there's sun, it falls in another part. Or even if you issue a advisory alert, a yellow alert, and you see a green alert hours later, and so on. What are you all doing to basically address this to the public and forecast predictably?
Well, so the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service has been leveraging on the latest available technologies in order to ensure that we disseminate meteorological information, warnings and advisories in a timely manner whilst maintaining high levels of accuracy. We have some of the latest technology at the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, and we have embraced a lot of the new methodologies and communication channels. We have our weather app, TTMet, which members of the public can download and have on the go. We have our website, www.metoffice.gov.tt, and we are present on all of the various social media platforms. We are engaged in collaboration with our regional and our international partners on how we can improve on our methodologies with respect to getting our messages out. So we have been very effective in terms of getting our messages out. We have also employed a variety of new technology and cutting-edge equipment to enable our forecasters to be able to better observe the weather and enhance their ability to forecast the weather. So we're installing over the next couple of weeks a brand new GOES 16 satellite receiving system. And I'm very grateful to the government of Trinidad and Tobago for supporting us on this. And of course, I wish to express my thankfulness to my minister, the Honorable Marvin Gonzalez, who has indeed been a champion for us at the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service. So we have this satellite. We are working on getting the radar back to full operability. We have deployed throughout the country, a network of automatic weather stations. So we are gathering data. We are reaching as far as we can, even in some remote areas, like Guayari and Blanchishes and Chagaramas. We now have automatic weather stations deployed. So with the network of automatic weather stations, we're able to gather the data with our eyes in the sky, like the radar and the satellite. We can see what's happening with the numerical weather prediction models that are available out there. So the forecasters can take all of this information, assimilate it, and come up with the best possible forecast. So we are challenged at sometimes because, climate is changing. As you said before, the weather is very unpredictable at times, but we try as far as practicably possible to get it right most of the times.
You just spoke about the O16 satellite system that's about to be deployed and so on. Is this a game changer? What exactly is it going to help, and how is it going to help the Met Service?
So this new GO16 satellite receiving ground station, is cutting-edge technology. It will enhance the ability of the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service to have and to see, various types of weather phenomena that traditionally we had no equipment to sense. So apart from, the normal clouds and precipitation, we'd be able to observe dust. We are affected here in Trinidad and Tobago to a greater extent than some of our Caribbean colleagues by Saharan dust. It's amazing, Saharan dust, the dust originates in the Saharan desert and travels all the way across the Atlantic and gets deposited here in Trinidad and Tobago. And, in some of our colleagues, and countries across the region as well. Now, this satellite has, capabilities of tracking these Saharan dust outbreaks, as well as other atmospheric phenomena like volcanic ash and dust. So it will enable us in a better way to be able to forecast air quality, which is extremely important, right? Because, when there's poor air quality, some of our citizens with asthma and other related illnesses, they depend on guidance from us to know when we are going to have these Saharan dust outbreaks, right? So similarly, in some of the larger metropolitan cities, the most important piece of information that a person can have on a daily basis is the weather information, right? It dictates the clothes we wear, where we go, when we go, whether we walk with the umbrella or the raincoat. We in Trinidad, we are accustomed to either rainy or sunny, but now we are having other variables like air pollution and air quality issues. So this new satellite receiving ground station will enhance our ability to observe bushfires, to look at downstream and river effects, and many other fascinating capabilities which we're excited about once it gets installed over the next couple of weeks.
So the weather also predicts in terms of whether we can go to the beach or not. But Mr. Baig, I want to ask you in terms of the radar tower in Brazo Venado. I know it's been down since 2020. Where are we with that, and how have you been managing without it?
So Sunil, we have been having our challenges with this radar system. The Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service has this Doppler weather radar located in the hills of Brazo Venado. This system has been installed since 2010 and has worked well. It was commissioned by the then Minister of Public Utilities, Honorable Mustafa Abdul Hamid, and it worked well. The radar has an average lifespan of about 25 years. However, from this radar, we haven't had this level of continuous service that we'd really like to have. And I think it had to do, with amazingly enough, atmospheric factors down there, some wear and tear on some of the mechanical equipment. So you're right, the radar has been down since 2020, and we have made several attempts with the manufacturers of the radar, a German company by the name of Leonardo. The government of Trinidad and Tobago contracted this company on 2 separate occasions, and each time they visited, they tried their best. They reached a point where we needed more parts and a greater amount of skills from the engineers. I'm happy to say that within recent times we have had an engineer visit us from Germany. He has tried his best. We are hoping and we are keeping our fingers crossed that we get this radar back to full operability very soon, and we will be letting the public know within the shortest possible time frame whether the radar is back up and fully functional, and whether we'll be able to obtain a satisfactory amount of radar images from this radar. However, the tower and the associated infrastructure with this radar has been completely refurbished, right? So we were able to refurbish the tower and the infrastructure, and change out all of the air conditioning systems, change out all of the railings and the emergency exit, install a new generator and diesel tank and many other things at the site. It's just now to get the actual radar back to a state of full operability.
A couple of years ago, I saw the Minister of Public Utilities say that there is going to be a new home basically for the TTMS. I think it was supposed to start in the first quarter of 2023. Has that been started, and is there a completion date?
Yes, so the process is ongoing. The government of Trinidad and Tobago has contracted NIPDEC, and they have invited bids from contractors for a design build, utilizing a design build methodology, and they're at the stage now where they're shortlisting contractors for this project. So we are well advanced with this particular project, where a new building and a new home should be constructed for the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, and this is needed, right? We are constricted and restricted at this time with respect to where we are, expanding our goods and services that we provide, and getting new levels of technology and equipment into the organization. So this building is a step in the right direction, and I think within the next few months we should be having some good news with respect to this building, and the public will be informed accordingly.
As we get deeper and deeper into the rainy season, the hurricane season is going to approach us and so on. Citizens are always concerned about this. What are our predictions for the hurricane season in terms of, is it going to be above average hurricane season we're going to see in 2024?
Yes, right. The National Hurricane Center, which is our big brother, right, when it comes to the hurricanes and tropical storms and assisting us with advisories, they've indicated that 2024 will be what is referred to now as a hyperactive season, right, in terms of the amount of tropical storms and hurricanes. Now, there's a little bit of science behind this entire prediction. There is a phenomena known as the El Niño Southern Oscillation. And there's empirical evidence to suggest that during El Niño years, we don't have the amount of tropical storms and hurricanes, that we'll normally have. However, the prediction is that somewhere between September and October, there's a transitioning to La Niña, right? Which is where the evidence suggests, therefore, that we will have more tropical storm formation and more hurricane formation. So we are preparing ourselves for a very active hurricane season. We've been very lucky here in Trinidad so far over the last few years. We have had no direct impacts from these tropical storms and hurricanes. But I always like to say that we're in the hurricane basin, right? And the possibility exists that in any hurricane season, we can have a tropical storm or hurricane, directly impacting on us here in Trinidad and Tobago. And the key message here is that we should always be prepared if something like this were to happen.
Yeah, there's always a notion that all Trinis believe that, God is a Trini and we wouldn't be hit by anything like this. But from the Met Service's perspective, what should citizens do to prepare themselves for such an event?
I always hear this, right, that God is a Trini, and I know he has maybe a passport with many other nationalities as well, right? But we are lucky because of where we are geographically positioned. Trinidad and Tobago is on the southern edge, right, of the Caribbean, and so most of the systems that form out in the Atlantic, they move to the north of us, and this is why Tobago will receive more rainfall and impacts from the passage of these tropical storms and hurricanes. However, the Met Office has been enhancing its capabilities when it comes to providing early warnings. We have partnered with the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, and they have a new PANS alerting system. So we are going to get these messages out. We are an issuing authority as well as an alerting authority. So we'll issue an alert, but many others have joined us. Our stakeholders, our partners are collaborating with us to ensure that we get the message out there when it comes to preparedness, right? We need to be prepared in the event that we receive a deluge of rainfall and there's flooding. We need to be aware where our shelters are in our community. We need to have our valuable documents, safely put away so that we can, quickly grab and on the move. And most of all, and very importantly, we need to pay close attention to the advisories and the alerts that are issued from the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service.
Earlier, we talked about the collaboration between the Met Service and Wasa. There are other agencies such as the ODPM. How is the collaboration with them? And in terms of, if a hurricane system or a storm is approaching, what goes into actually preparing them as well?
So the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service maintains close collaboration and cooperation with all of our stakeholders, right? We actually host 2 National Climate Outlook Forum in any year. There's a dry season National Climate Outlook Forum, NCOF, and there's a wet season NCOF. Last month we had our wet season NCOF, and we hosted most of our key stakeholders, preparing them for what is to come in the rainy and the hurricane season, and also, hearing from them what their expectations are in terms of, products and services that they'd like to see emanate from the Meteorological Service. Sunil, we're also a leader in this regard. The hosting of these Climate Outlook Forums is part of the global framework for climate services, and it's highly recommended by the World Meteorological Organization. And in Trinidad and Tobago, we hosted last month our 16th National Climate Outlook Forum. And I'm just blowing a little bit of our trumpet a bit. Whilst we were hosting our 16th National Climate Outlook Forum, our colleagues in Jamaica just had their inaugural forum. So we're a leader in this regard as well. So we collaborate closely with all of our partners and stakeholders, and we ensure that we have them on our contact listing for easy transmission of early warnings, so that response can be proactive in case there's any impending severe weather episode.
Mr. Baig, is there a continued interest in Trinidad and Tobago or the Caribbean in meteorology? Do we have enough meteorologists in Trinidad or even Trinidad and Tobago or the Caribbean?
The Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, like any other organization, we face some challenges, right? And one of our challenge that we face here is, human resources at the meteorological services. In order to enter at the entry level, citizens need specialized training. And this training in the region is only available at the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, and this is in Barbados. So to enter into the Met Service, you need this entry-level qualification. When you get into the system, you move from one level to the next, again, based on your qualification and training. My first degree actually is on government scholarship, and this was done at the University of the West Indies, again, Cave Hill campus, because that's a campus that does the degree in meteorology. And then, my training took me to the National Hurricane Center and to the US and different parts of the world, to ensure that I was suitably qualified and trained. But, I'd like to throw it out there to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. If anyone has a degree in meteorology or specialized training in meteorology, contact us. There might be something that we can do and get you into the service. The government of Trinidad and Tobago, by a decision of cabinet, restructured the entire meteorological service. And this was done in September of 2023. We had the creation of a set of new establishment positions, and so we are making every step to fill these positions. We recently advertised some positions, some GIS positions, a meteorological scientist position, and we're hoping to interview. So we are making effort to fill these positions because, I always say the most important resource that an organization can have is its human resource. And so once we have the human resource factor taken care of, then we can overcome some of our other challenges, which hinges on, of course, adequate and proper staffing.
We did talk about the O16 satellite system, but what can we expect from the Met Service in the coming months and years?
So we at the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, in the coming months and years, we're utilizing and we're leveraging, technology to enhance our capabilities and also to ensure that we build closer collaboration and relationship with our stakeholders in an effort to ensure that we provide products and services that meets or exceeds their requirements. So we're expanding on our data gathering exercise. At the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, with a program that we have with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that's the weather service in the US, we're actually manufacturing our own set of automatic weather stations. So we have to date manufactured and deployed 15 of these automatic weather stations at different locations throughout Trinidad and Tobago. In addition to the GOES 16 satellite receiving system, we have other systems that we're acquiring and repairing at this time that will enhance our capability to gather data. And this will, of course, lend the forecaster additional skills and requirements to produce more reliable and accurate forecasts. We're also enhancing our collaborative efforts with our regional and international partners. We are a beneficiary, Trinidad and Tobago is a beneficiary of the WMO Systematic Observational Financing Facility. So we're receiving from them equipment and funding that will ensure that we are compliant with the Global Basic Observing Network, which is the GBON. So there's a lot going on here, right? You'll be hearing a lot of acronyms. And we're also trying, as I indicated before, to fill that little gap that exists with the human resources. So in the upcoming months and years, Sunil, you'll be hearing a lot from the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Services, from our new building to our satellite, our radar, our automatic weather stations, and many other exciting new ventures that we are entering into from the Met Service side.
Tell me about some of these successes and the challenges that's faced by the TTMS.
So our main success that we have had is that the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service has been able to gain a higher level of public trust and confidence. Many years ago, you'd hear the average citizen out there say, when the Met Office say rain, look out for sun. I think more and more our feedback and, our surveys have indicated to us that we have gained a higher level of public trust and confidence. More and more the public is coming to us whenever they require weather information. So they're going to the Met Office app, they're going to our website, they're with us and providing feedback on Facebook and Twitter and the other set of, social media platforms. So that for me is a big gain and a big success. Then the other success that we are celebrating is the fact that we are getting new equipment, like the GOES 16 satellite receiving system. We have a plan to get some additional automatic weather stations. And also we're gathering more and more data, and we are making advances with respect to the analysis of this data. So some of the data that we receive now, we're customizing a suite of products. And this is part of our success, right? We customize products and services for the agricultural sector, for the oil and gas industry, for the construction sector, for the fisheries, for the, there's a whole host of products and services that we provide at the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service. So we have many successes at the Met Service, but of course, there are also some challenges, right? And part of our challenge, as I told you before, is climate change. As much as we get a handle on climate change, the climate is changing and evolving. And climate change is leading to a shift in rainfall patterns. Climate change is leading to a shift and an increase in our daily maximum temperature. Many years ago, 32 was an acceptable high temperature for Trinidad, and many of our citizens would have grown accustomed to this. This year, 34 is becoming the acceptable maximum temperature. And in this regard, the WMO, which is a World Meteorological Organization, has done a meta-analysis of temperature data gathered from across the globe. And the research findings from this meta-analysis highlighted that 2023 was the hottest year on record. And we are in June so far, and the data that they have gathered for this 6-month period is pointing in the direction that 2024 is going to surpass the record of 2023. So this is part of our challenge as well. Whilst we're grappling in understanding our own climate and its variability, the climate is changing globally. So we have a two-tiered set of system to deal with. But we are gathering the data. We work closely with all of our partners in terms of providing the information that is required, and also suggesting some things that we can do to mitigate against the harmful effects of climate change.
So, Baig, your final thoughts?
Well, I just want to express my thankfulness to you and the team for having me on this program, and to reassure the national public of Trinidad and Tobago that the Meteorological Service is fulfilling its mandate. We're a public service entity, but we operate a little bit different. The Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service, I tell people I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's because my office, where we observe and forecast the weather, functions around the clock. There are people there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, observing the weather. The weather doesn't take a day off or an hour off like us, right? And severe weather can occur at any time. So we are keeping a continuous eye on, the parameters out there of the weather, and we are striving as far as practicably possible to provide warnings as accurate as we can and as timely as we can, utilizing the technology and resources that are available to us. I want to advise and, sound a word of caution that in the upcoming months, there will be severe weather episodes. There will be flooding events. There might even be a tropical system that might pass close to us, hopefully, and not have any direct impacts on us. I want to advise everyone to pay close attention to the advisories and the alerts that are issued by the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service. And quite simply put, be prepared. We're in the rainy and we're in the hurricane season.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baig. I know we've been raining questions here at you, and I know when we go deeper and deeper into the rainy season, the Met Service will have their hands full. Thank you very much for joining us on this week's episode, Mr. Baig. It's been a very fruitful discussion indeed.
You're most welcome.
Join us at the same time next week for another episode of Delving Deeper. I am Sonolala, and on behalf of the entire group, have a great night.